For 6 days in May 1980, this building in central gunmen hold 26 people hostage. On the afternoon of day 6 of the siege, the gunmen kill one hostage and threw his body out. At 7:23 that evening, strange figures appear on the roof. The world is about to witness one of its most secretive organizations in action, the Special Air Service, the SAS.
The Special Air Service Regiment, the SAS, guards its secrets carefully. I'm Tim Collins, and I served 23 years in the British Army, including both Gulf Wars. Those that know the regiment, who know the need for secrecy, believe there's only one story that should ever be told.
It's the story of how and where the SAS began. It's the story of how the regiment was founded. The story of one man, David Stirling, and the band of misfits and rule breakers who were with him on day one, the originals. And it's not the story you'd expect. Conventional wisdom has it that Stirling died without putting on record how he created the SAS. The same is said about the originals.
Well, it had to be regarded as a new type of force to extract the very maximum out of surprise and guile.
And then Paddy had got, I think it was 48 planes, and so later was in.
And 8 days later, we went back and got another 24 off of the field, with no bother at all.
We thought of the others that we didn't know where they were, whether they were alive or dead. I think the most of us wanted to continue. We'd gone through so much, so whatever happened afterwards was going to be, as you would say, a piece of cake. It wasn't, of course, but...
...1984. A group of old soldiers gather to remember. They are modest and unassuming. They have never told their stories in full. These are known only to a few. Because in the early years of World War II, they were part of something remarkable. Because they are the founders of the Special Air Service.
The SAS was 1941 by a young Scots Guards officer, David Stirling. Most military historians believe that Stirling and the people with him on day one, the originals, died without ever putting their on record. They're wrong.
Film roll 42, 53, take 1.
At that dinner over 20 years ago, Stirling and those originals fit enough to travel told their story for the first time. Ever since, those
Cheers to the Colonel.
Colonel David.
Yep. Hooray! 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 Hooray!
From the start, we knew we would never make it a regiment unless not only did we operated effectively, but we succeeded in establishing a new role. And that band of vagabonds had to grasp what they had to do in order to get there.
There is almost no visual record of what the originals did. We have recreated their stories based on the precise given by the originals themselves, and the man they always call Colonel David, no matter rank, captain or major, at various parts of their story.
To create an organisation like the SAS takes a very special sort of man. One was certainly not of the normal mould.
David Stirling was born into the Scottish aristocracy in 1915. This statue, above the family home close to Dunblane, was raised by members of the SAS. When he's still a small, mother asks him what he'll do in life that people will remember him by. The early signs aren't good. He's sent on from Cambridge for drinking and gambling. The Alps, then the American Rockies. His aim, to be the first man to climb Everest. (1939). War breaks out with Germany. Stirling joins the Scots Guards. But the Guards' base at Pirbright is close to the gaming tables of the London clubs. In one lecture, Stirling falls asleep. The lecturer asks him to repeat what he's just. Stirling does. The incident will come back to haunt Stirling at a critical moment in the story of the SAS. Stirling volunteers for the Guards Commando. In 1941, he goes to the force led by Robert Laycock. Hitler occupies Europe. Control of the Mediterranean is vital. In North Africa, Rommel's Afrika Korps has driven the British back to the Egyptian border.
British commando operations are cancelled. It's frustrating, but it's also the beginning of an amazing story. The story of David Stirling and the Special Air Service.
They didn't want to risk having casualties. And therefore, unless the weather was absolutely right or all the other requirements for any operational undertaking, it reduced the hazards of that operation to a minimum. They wouldn't let, so we were involved in a series of postponement and of cancellations.
But the commando experience with Lay Force is already sowing an idea in Stirling's head.
It got thinking regarding how one could carry out the row at 1/100th of the cost. And having realized that that was what was required, it made it all the easier. In fact, it made it inevitable to come up with a proposition along the lines of SAS.
Except there's a catch. The boredom of being pulled back from operations has another consequence, one that doesn't appear in any official history. The man who founds the SAS faces a court-martial for cowardice.
I would go out at 8 o'clock in the evening, having recovered from the appalling hangover from my activities in Naira, and re-established my illness by the activities that following night. And they rumbled this in the end.
Returning from a commando night exercise, Stirling trips, rips an eye, and is taken to hospital. The enemies he's already making at Middle East headquarters descend.
It was a deliberate effort to injure myself so I wouldn't have to go on the active operations that break more than justify prosecution as a card. And they had a committee checking it.
Stirling has the idea for what will become the... But Lay Force is disbanded, and he potentially faces a court-martial. It's time for the story twist.
Stirling, another Guards officer, Jock Lewis, organised an unofficial parachute drop with a shipment of parachutes which should have gone to India. Like Stirling, Lewis isn't a career soldier. He's a former president of the Oxford University Rowing Club. Like Stirling, he's also thinking about small-scale raiding groups. Exercise goes wrong. Stirling's chute catches in the tailplane and is ripped open. He's almost killed.
It kept, fortunately, the canopy avoid, but obviously let a lot more air through, so I descended a good deal than my companions.
In fact, Stirling's lucky to survive. He hits the ground hard and he's blinded. And whilst he recovers his sight fairly quickly, his legs are paralyzed. It looks like the end for Stirling the soldier and for his idea of